Alright, hello everyone, it's Happy, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 worst premium tanks in World of Tanks Blitz. Just a heads up, I'm going to be mostly talking about tier 8 tanks. Not mostly, I'm pretty much only going to be talking about tier 8 tanks. That's because most people do buy premium tanks at tier 8 because they farm the most, and overall, it's just a good tier to talk about premiums in. And another heads up, please don't cry if your favorite tank is here, because again, I'm looking at official statistics, so this is not really my personal opinion, but rather how the player base feels and how the player base really operates. So at number 5, we're going to be putting the Panzer 58. Basically, this is a piece of trash at tier 8. And you know why? Because this tank is almost a direct copy of the Indian Panzer, but worse in every single way. For example, the DPM is going to be worse, the weapon handling is also going to be worse, specifically the aim time. The mobility is pretty much the same, but when it comes to just how fast the tank moves forward. So both the Indian Panzer and the Panzer 58 go forward at 50 kilometers per hour, but the Tech Tree tank has a much better engine power compared to the Panzer 58. Overall, just a horrible tank, and there's basically no reason to buy this tank whatsoever. And I just feel like you'd rather, have a much better time saving up your gold. At number 4, I'm going to be throwing in the FCM 50T. Now, this is a French medium tank at tier 8, and oh god, is this tank just hideous. This tank is so big, it's probably closer to a heavy tank rather than a medium. This tank is humongous, but at the same time, it has no armor. The mobility is really, really decent. At 51 kilometers forward, the engine power is pretty decent. But in general, this tank is just going to be really bad. The weapon handling is not the best. The DPM is not the greatest. It's at 2,466. And overall, this tank is just very boring. It's a big, fat, unarmored tank that really brings nothing to the battlefield. Compare the FCM 50T to a really strong tier 8 medium tank. Even compared to the Progetto, for example, and it has nothing. It has nothing in comparison. And if you do see this tank for gold, please don't buy it, I beg you. When I see this tank in randoms, my eyes just want to fall out because of how hideous this tank is. At number 3, we're going to be putting the T-25 Pilot. Number 1, this is again another medium tank at tier 8, of course. This is American. And similar to the other 2 tanks in this list, it's really similar to those tanks. This tank has some decent DPM, 2,357, which is again not the greatest, not the worst. It's alright. The weapon handling is, again not amazing. Almost a 2-second aim time, so 1.97. The dispersion is alright. I mean, it's just not a fun tank. The mobility is similar to the other tanks at 50 kilometers forward with a power to weight ratio of 17.8, which is again not amazing. I mean, guys, do you really want to be playing this tank? Whenever I see this tank in for example, an Object 252U, I'm just like, yeah, this is lunch. I'm going to eat this guy as a whole. I can literally destroy you. And whoever buys this tank is probably a collector. If not, please don't buy this tank because, again, it doesn't have any specific features. It's not that amazing, and you're not going to enjoy it, and therefore you're not going to be farming as much. This is just a generic-looking tank, and it just plays generic as well. Definitely, I would not recommend this tank whatsoever. At number 2, I'm going to be putting the ISU 130. Now, this tank does seem similar to the ISU 152, right? Right, guys? No, not at all. The DPM is 3,121. That seems really decent. But when you look at the ISU 152 from the Tech Tree, this one has worse DPM. The ISU 152 from the Tech Tree has 3,166 DPM, which is a little bit better than that of the premium version. On top of that, The penetration on the tech tree ISU is 286. The premium ISU 130 only has 245, which is still enough to penetrate most tanks, but you can see how much more dominant the ISU 152 from the tech tree is. Now, of course, the weapon handling on this tank is going to be better, but that's simply also because the alpha on the premium version is 460, while the tech tree version has 640 alpha. 640 alpha is literally going to rip your face off if you peek against an ISU 152. The premium version, the 130, is not even close. Like, it's not a fun tank at all when you have the ISU 152, which you can get for free from the tech tree. The only reason why you would get this tank is to farm credits. And if you really want to do that, there are so many other tanks that are better at the job. This tank is going to be worse than the tech tree version in almost every single aspect except weapon handling. And it's just boring. What's the point of having an ISU 152 with a gun that only pews 460 instead of 640? Just think about it. There's no reason to get this tank. And finally, at number 1, we're going to be putting the Panther 8.8 centimeter at that spot. Now, it's not necessarily to say that this is probably the worst tank out of all 5. I feel like all 5 of these tanks are pretty much rubbish and, they're not that great. But the Panther 8.8 is especially boring. That's specifically because it is the brother, of course, of the tech tree version of the Panther 2. And the Panther 2 is, a little bit better when it comes to the DPM. And that's pretty much it. The 8.8 centimeter, the premium version, is actually better when it comes to the weapon handling. It has a little bit better of an aim time, and the mobility is actually a tiny percent better when it comes to the power to weight ratio. It's probably not even that noticeable. So basically, it's a copy of the Panther 2. And to me, that again is not fun at all. What is the point of buying this premium tank when you can literally get the Panther 2, which is almost an identical tank from the tech tree? On top of that, you're not going to be winning a lot because this tank has really nothing to offer when you compare it to tanks which are way stronger than it at tier 8. What's the point of buying this if you're not really going to, have some different sort of gameplay? You can literally get it for free. And if you like it, maybe you could get the Panther 8.8 centimeter. If you really enjoy the Panther 2, which I doubt you will, you could get this tank. But in all seriousness, this tank does not stand a chance to the modern medium tanks which have been coming out or which Wargaming releases into the game as premiums. Because those tanks are really going to have something special and they're going to be really strong. So I really wouldn't suggest any of these tanks in the list. And if you do get them, don't cry to me. So with that, happy is out. Tell me what you guys think about this list in the comment section below. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.